Hi everybody, welcome back from spring break. It's time to get started. We are starting a new module today, module 13. This is probably going to be the last module that we get to this school year, just because I think we only have like 16 days of school left, since our weeks are we only have 3 days per week basically. So this will probably be the last module that we get to. We might get into module 14 a little bit, but this will probably be the last one. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with it. Our lesson today is on three-dimensional figures. This module really is all about finding volume of three-dimensional shapes. So think of like boxes, cubes, prisms, pyramids, spheres, things like that. Okay. Now, kind of before we get started with the lesson, what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and I do want you to take notes. Remember, you can use your notes on any tests and quizzes that we have, so I'd really like you to write these definitions down, the definitions for each of these vocab words, because each of these vocab words we're going to be using throughout these video lessons, and it's going to be important for you to remember what each of these words means. So if you have them written down, it's going to be nice and handy for you. So go ahead and pause it and write these down, and then we'll kind of move on. Alright, so hopefully you wrote these down. First word is a polyhedron. A polyhedron is a 3D figure whose faces are all polygons. So these two shapes right here are both examples of polyhedrons. Okay, it's a 3D figure whose faces are all polygons. A face is any flat surface of a 3D figure. So you'll notice that this right here, this is a prism. Okay, it's got a face kind of right here. It's got a face on the side, another face on the other side. There's a face on the back of the prism, and then there's a face on the bottom and on the top as well. Okay, this pyramid right here has 5 faces. There's two faces on the side, 2 faces on the front and back, and then a face on the bottom as well. Okay, an edge is the line where 2 faces meet. So like if you think about this prism here, this line here, so here's a face at the top and a face on the side. This line where they meet up, okay, that's an edge. And then a vertex is a point where 3 or more edges meet in a polyhedron. So like this point right here is a vertex. This point here is a vertex. This point back here, this point here, this point. So the point, basically just those single points where those edges meet, those are vertexes or vertices. And then a base is the face that's used to name a polyhedron. Usually the base is the bottom. Okay, it's like the flat surface that's on the bottom. And then if there's a face that's parallel to the one on the bottom, that's also a base. So for example, this prism here, this bottom is a base, and then this one at the top is parallel to it, so it's also a base. So this shape has 2 different bases. They're both rectangles. Okay, this pyramid here only has 1 base. You'll see that it's got 1 shape here on the bottom. There isn't anything that's parallel to it, so it just has 1 base. Okay. Our objective for today's lesson is to be able to describe the characteristics of 3-dimensional figures. Okay, so let's look at our first explore activity here, classifying prisms and pyramids. Man, my nose is itchy. A pyramid is a polyhedron that has 2 parallel congruent bases. Sorry, did I say pyramid? I meant prism. A prism is a polyhedron that has 2 parallel congruent bases. This would also be a good definition to write down. These bases can be any polygon. So they could be a triangle, they could be a square, they could be a pentagon, a heptagon. Okay, any polygon can have a prism can have any polygon as a base. The other faces are all parallelograms. A pyramid is a polyhedron that has 1 base. That'd be another good definition to write down. The base can be any polygon. So again, a pyramid can have a triangular base. If you think about like the pyramids in Egypt, okay, what kind of shape do those have? Well, those are squares, right? So those have those would be square pyramids. Okay, then the other faces are all triangles. So if we look at our first shape here, this figure 1 here, it says identify the following for each figure. The number of bases. Okay, well if we count the number of bases, there's one here at the bottom and there's one here at the top, so there are 2 bases in this figure. The shape of those bases are both rectangles. Now you might think, well, how do you know they're rectangles? They kind of look like they could be squares too. You're right. They definitely could be squares. Whenever you have a shape like this and it's not obvious if it's a square or a rectangle, just play it safe and call it a rectangle, and you should always be correct. Okay. Now if it says like this side, this side, this side, and this side are all equal, that means it has to be a square, right? So you can go ahead and call it a square then, but if you don't know what the length of these sides are, just go with a rectangle. The number of faces. Okay, so let's go ahead and count the number of faces. We've got one on top and one on bottom. Those are our bases. Bases are also considered faces. Okay, so there's one on top and one on the bottom. There's one on the sides, and so there's 2 on the sides. Then there's one here on the front, and then one in the back as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there are 6 total faces. Okay. Now the number of rectangular faces, let me go ahead and erase these markings here. Think about the faces that we just counted. How many of them are considered rectangles? Well, all of them are considered rectangles, right? All of these are rectangles, right? So there are 6 rectangular faces. The next one says triangular faces. Now you might think, oh, is this like a trick question? I don't see any triangles. Well, yeah, there aren't any triangular faces in this prism, right? So there are 0 triangular faces. Now you might wonder why I even asked. On the next one there will be some triangular faces that you'll want to be able to make note of. So, and then the name of this figure, okay, again, the last slide said we name it by the base. So we call it a rectangular, and then this is a prism. So this is a rectangular prism. Okay, so we call this a rectangular prism. Now, if the base was a triangle or something like that, then it wouldn't be a rectangular prism anymore. It would be a triangular prism. Okay, so you name it by the base. Okay, here we've got our next figure. Okay, this is a pyramid now. Okay, so how many bases are there here? Well, I just count 1 on the bottom here. So there's just 1 base. The shape of that base, again, what do you think the shape of this base would be? You might think square, but it could be a square, it could be a rectangle. We don't know for sure if it's a square or not, so we're going to say it's a rectangle. And then the number of faces, there's the base, that's 1. Then there's 2 triangular ones on the side, that's 2 and 3. And then 2 more on the front and back, that's a total of 5 faces. Okay, now how many rectangular faces? Well, the base is a rectangle, right? So that's 1. The ones on the sides, though, are not. So there's just 1 rectangular face. These ones on the side, those are triangles, right? So there's 1, 2 on the side, and then 3 on the front, and then the 4th one is in the back. So that's 4 triangular faces. Then the name of the figure is a blank pyramid. Well, again, we name it by the base. This base, what shape is it? It's a rectangle. So this is a rectangular pyramid. Okay. If it was a square, if we knew for certain it was a square, we called it a square pyramid. Again, if it was a triangular pyramid, we could call it or if it was a triangle base, we'd call it a triangular pyramid. Okay. Next, classifying prisms and pyramids. Part B. Name the vertices, edges, and faces of figure 2. So let's go back to these definitions. A face is any flat surface of a 3D figure. Okay, and a vertex is a point where 3 or more edges meet. And then an edge is the line where 2 faces meet. Okay, so the vertices of this image, right, of this figure, okay, the first one's given for us, the first one's given for us, that's P, okay, here's a vertice, Okay, another vertex is Q over there. Over here is a vertex, that's R, so we're just going to write R. Here's another vertex, that's S. And then there's one more, this point at the top, that's T, that's our last vertex. Okay, so there's 5 vertices in this figure. Okay. Now our edges. Our first one's given for us. First, when we write our edges, we write it like a line segment. So we write 2 letters that are connecting the line, and then we write this little line thing at the top of it to show us a line segment. So the first one is PQ. Let me erase what we have so far. Okay. Oops, I did not mean to do that, but that's okay. All right, so edges, PQ. That's this line right here. Next one we have, what's this one right here? We're going to write line segment QR for that. Next one, we've got this one, that's RS, so line segment RS. Next one is PS. Okay, now that's not it. Now we've got the ones going up. So we've got PT going up. We've got QT. Then we've got ST. And then the last we've got line segment RT. Okay. So it's all the edges, all those straight lines, okay, that are on the pyramid. And then last, we want the faces. The faces, we list all of the vertices that are associated with the face. The faces are the flat surfaces. So the first one they have is PQT. So PQT is this triangular face there. Okay, what would we call this triangular face in the back? Well, we're just going to list the 3 letters associated with that triangular face. That's QRT. So QRT is the second face. Okay, now there's the triangular face on this side. That's SRT. Then there's the triangular face on the front. That's PST. And then there's one more face that we're forgetting here, and that's the base. The base, though, is a rectangle, right? So there's 4 letters that we need to write for this, and that is PQRS. PQRS. That's the last face we need to write. Okay, a regular polyhedron is a 3-dimensional figure in which all the faces are congruent regular polygons. Give an example of a regular polygon. Okay, so all the faces of a regular polyhedron are congruent. What do you think an example would be of a 3D shape where all the faces are congruent figures? Think about something like this. Maybe like a square. All the faces are squares, right? What's that shape called? If you said cube, you would be correct. So a cube would be an example of a regular polyhedron. Okay. Here it says, name the vertices, edges, and faces of this square pyramid. So vertices first. Remember, those are the points where the edges and the faces meet. Okay, so we've got A listed. Okay, B would be one. C, D, and E. There's 5 of them, right? So A, B, C, D, and E. Our edges, we've got AB, BC, line segment BC would be 1. Then line segment CD would be 1. Line segment AD, oh, that's a bad A. Oh, that's a bad D. Ooh. Then we're going to go up, so the ones that are going up. So AE, segment AE, segment BE, segment CE, segment DE. Which means there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges on this one. Okay, the faces, it has the rectangular base listed first, A, B, C, D. Okay, we also want to list the triangular sides now. So AEB is 1. Okay, there's BEC. There's CED, and sorry, this is getting very chaotic all of a sudden, CED. And then there's one more, AED. Okay, so hopefully my mouse writing isn't too sloppy for you and you're able to read all this, or at least follow what I'm saying. Okay. All right, here it says identify the polyhedron, then name its faces, edges, and vertices. So first we need to determine if this is a prism or a pyramid. Well, it's not a prism, right? Because a prism has 2 bases, one on top and one on the bottom. Okay, this one has 1 base on the bottom and then sides that go up to a point. So that makes this a pyramid. Then we have to figure out what type of pyramid. Well, we want to look at the base. This is the base right here. What's the shape of this base? Well, it's got 3 points to it. That's a triangle. So this is a triangular pyramid. Okay, then it says name its faces. Its faces, its edges, and its vertices. So the faces, the base is ABC. Another face is BCD. That's this side. Then it's got ACD. And then there's one more. You don't want to forget the face that's facing us, right? So ABD. Okay. The edges, we've got AB, BC, and CA. And there's 3 more going up, AD, CD, and BD. And then the vertices, that's easy. That's just those points. We got vertices A, B, C, and D. Okay? All right. So that's all for today. What I want you to do is you're going to go ahead and complete the questions that's linked to this assignment on Canvas. Okay, so I think once you're done watching this video, there should be a button that says, I don't know, start the assessment or something like that. This is going to be due on Friday. Okay. Now, in my video from Monday, I did say I was going to start hosting some live sessions for you guys to come and get homework help or answer any questions that you might have. Your class, so the period 1 sessions are going to be every Monday at 1 p.m. Okay, so if you're stuck on a homework question or you need help with anything, you can come, drop in. It's completely optional. You don't have to come if you don't want to. But I figured I'd offer it in case anybody needs some help one-on-one, or even if you don't have a specific question, maybe somebody else has specific questions and you want to come and you just want to listen to other people's questions and get help and listen to the help I'm giving them. You can totally do that too. Okay, so you can come to the live Q&A sessions on Canvas with Mr. Yoder starting this coming Monday at 1 p.m. Okay, and then it'll happen probably every Monday after that. Okay, so Mondays at 1 p.m. If you have any questions that you need help with, feel free to come and ask questions, and that'll probably be on Canvas. Now, I've never done it before, so it's going to kind of be a learning experience for me, so hopefully you can come and we'll kind of learn it all together. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Hopefully you guys are staying safe and ready to get back into the swing of the end of the school year. See you guys.